grinding on the table for my team. Every night I flex, I'm making big moves.
We're here with Walter Brouwer, who's the former CEO of Doc.Ai, CEO of XY.ai, and the current Chief Scientific Officer of Sharecare. Walter, welcome to the show. Very excited to have you.
Thank you. Very, very glad to be here.
So Walter, you are a Stanford professor, you're an inventor, you're a businessman, you're kind of this modern day Renaissance man, if you will. So really appreciate you coming on. I know that there was an article in 2018 when we were doing some research initially that had changed your perspective on life, if you will. So before we even kick things off, I'd love to hear from you in terms of what was that article from a very high level and how has that impacted your life personally?
It's probably about, when you're in machine learning, I've been in machine learning for a very long time. My biography is something like I went through the winter of AI when I was in the summer of my life. And now that I'm in the winter of my life, I'm going through the summer of AI, which was actually probably the best way to go. For a very long time, I was teaching at university, the normal stuff like introduction to algorithms and then machine translation, because we hadn't yet figured out machine translation. And but then Marvin Minsky, said that machines can't learn, so all the students disappeared because all the money disappeared, and we went through the winter of AI. I, for one, went back to live with my parents, and my room was still there. And I became an entrepreneur because, you have a slight advantage if you are in computer science, and the future will be more computer science for many and less computer science for also many because of the no-code movement. And so I became an entrepreneur. And so if you actually accidentally, I had a good background because I was born in Belgium, several languages, because we are the most conquered country in the world, so also Catholic school was good. The Jesuits are actually phenomenal priests because they are scientists and they are people of faith, and they can compartmentalize these things and make them, create bridges and wormholes between them.
Yeah.
And they gave us a very, very good scientific background. And so I became an academic, the first of my family that ever went to university. I went all the way. And then when I was ready to work at university, first in my country, you had to go to the army. Mm-hmm. And that was also a very good impression. Not a good impression. I learned a lot in the army.
Right,
and I just seen that movie, An Officer and a Gentleman. I thought, I'm going to be an officer. And it didn't really work out like in the movie, but I learned a lot. I made all my management mistakes in the army. Okay. And then when I became an entrepreneur in 2001 to 2006, I became an investment banker. And that also I learned a lot. So, all these different worlds, and in all these different worlds, you can do something computational. Suddenly it comes to you like, hey, there are so many more things that I can do. I don't want to be a label. Mm-hmm. Because if you are a label, that means like you do one thing, they can replace you. But if you stack your skills, you're basically irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. Because the more...
Like a Swiss Army knife or something.
Yeah. It's better to know 40% of 20 things than 80% of one thing.
Absolutely.
And I think the 21st century is the century of skill stacking, of polymaths and actually Nicolas Negroponte, who used to run the Media Lab at MIT, had this great saying. He said, in the 21st century, focus is an F word. So, because
very true.
Very reductionist, And of course, people want us to be into one label, because then we are easily controllable in one label, and they can predict what we are going to do, and they can shove us around in boxes. But it's better to be the labeler than the label, you know.
Oh, and we always talk about that too, in terms of being kind of the platform almost, right? And so you as a person, as an individual, are the platform for all of these different skill sets in a sense. And I didn't mean to go there, but it kind of actually is a nice almost segue into kind of what Sharecare does, where it's really this platform where it can be your central repository, the way I interpret it, at least. And I would love to hear how you envision what Sharecare is and a part of it. But I view it as kind of this one application where I can go to manage a lot of my health, right? I have content there. I have that fun age IQ test that I took, which unfortunately I'm like a year or two older than I actually am. And then there's a number of different items that I'd love to hear from you in terms of where you guys are at today and ultimately where you guys are going. And then of course, we want to bring it back to you, because I think you are phenomenally interesting and you've done quite a bit in your lifetime and still a lot to go from what we're reading and from what we've heard on YouTube. And now we have you live. What brought you to Doc.Ai, and then what ultimately brought you to Sharecare, and what are you most excited about there?
Yeah, for Doc.Ai, I started my management team in 2016, and we just wanted to be a pure AI company. That means a lot of engineering. No salespeople, nothing. Like we do everything. It's all engineering, and we make it extremely difficult. Our tests are really extremely difficult to get into the company. I wouldn't pass. Luckily, that I'm the boss, because I wouldn't pass the test anymore, which is normal. And because you always have to hire more. And so we had reached a level of engineering that was when Google actually started to work on Edge. So I was already thinking on Edge, but there was no there was no software or no operating system ready to do that, because the Edge was your phone, your smartphone. How can you collect data on the Edge? How can you train data on the Edge? How can you make the phone learn on the Edge? And how can you bring all the edges together? It's very difficult. So we worked our patent goes back to 2018 on what is Edge native for medical research. Because one day, and we are there now, so Apple recently said that every 2 months, healthcare data is going to double because of wearables and Internet of Things, not because of medical records. So that means if in 2021, where we are now, if it doubles every 2 months, that is 2 to the power of 6. That means at the end of the year, it is 64 times bigger than it was at the beginning of the year. So this would mean that in 2022, all the medical records in the world are only 20% of the medical knowledge in the world. All the rest is wearables, and all the rest is Internet of Things. And you know what? There is a mathematical enormous difference between medical records and wearables. Wearables are a wave function. It's continuous. Medical records is episodic. You come in, the doctor writes something. Not a lot you can do with that. You have to make jumps, computational jumps. But if you have the waves, then you can start looking at a forward model of medicine. Now we have partially understand medicine backwards, forensics. When people die, we can practically say how they died. Right. But when they are sick, then it's very, very difficult. So I believe we are going with the consumer now, and this is happening now, because he has his smartphone. On the smartphone, he has Edge technology, and he also has extraction algorithms. So that means, and he has his body. That means in the industry, if you possess the land, if you possess the machines, you are owner of that data. So that data is his. And very soon, people will more and more realize that because it's based on their wearables. And they will realize that they are all basically researchers in one big research project, which we call medicine. And because their information will be so valuable, clinical trials, people who organize clinical trials, they will have to go to the consumer or to companies that have the brand of consumers and to say like, what would it cost us to make use of that data? And then the user who owns the data would have his terms and services, And so we create a gig economy basically on people. It goes even further. You could say that insurance companies with real world data, real world data is data that are in their claims, like an insurance company, if they would give real world data or the data of their consumers, if they would sell that to pharma, they could give insurance for free. It's a bit like if you are an electricity company and you are in a third world country, and that was when I was with one laptop per child with MIT. In Africa, we said that to the electricity companies, like give laptops for free because they need electricity.
And
People
that's
find a way to pay for electricity by working and educating themselves.
Well, it's interesting. It's almost like, if you were plugged in, do you see a world where it could get scary with the insurance company? If I'm, drinking a beer one night, for example, in real time, the premium of my insurance could go up, for that micro day or something. And then I go for a jog and my premium goes back down. It's like real time data, giving you.
It's a continuous function.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like that book, Avi, the Physics of the Future, where if you go to the bathroom, it'll tell you, it'll test your your health and see what's going on with you right at that moment, and nothing different out of your regular routine. And Walter, I just got to say, I love your focus on democratizing the healthcare space in general. And I've watched some of your videos where you said it should be a civil right where patients are the gatekeepers. And of course, with that, we'll talk about blockchain in a second. But I will say the data you just listed now is way ahead of even what you were predicting in 2018. And that's amazing. We want that to happen. The faster it gets there, the better it is. But back in 2018, you were saying that, genomic sequencing has doubled each year like Moore's Law. But now are we at that tipping point of mass and velocity, which is that momentum? You've got players like Teladoc, of course, Sharecare. You've got Amazon moving into space. And so it just looks like this is kind of becoming a much bigger focus just in general. So, of course, I love that you said, and I actually would love this T-shirt if you did make them. I don't know if you ever did, but the NN is greater than you. The best coder is that neural net. And now in 2021, that's all technology is talking about. So I'd love to see what you think in terms of, are there enough players now to bring this to mass adoption, to get enough people sequenced so we can take care of those 7,000 rare diseases with a genetic root that we can't even diagnose or classify, but if we have the data, we might be able to.
Yeah, I think so. I think we are now at that tipping point. We are at many tipping points. I also believe for the markets, we are going for the Roaring Twenties 2.0. Because of what happened. Because I believe that the pandemic was really a portal, to a new reality. But so let's go back to that patient. So if the patient has that smartphone, that wearable IoT around him, 5G and 6G, streaming data, and if he has that and he can participate in clinical trials and therefore being part of the gig economy of research, the gates of research are open, but then what will that patient do? Because people are very ingenious how to work a system. They quickly find I'm worth that much. So how can I actually be worth more? How can I make more money? So I believe there will be on YouTube or a company that will start giving consumer med school, a med school for consumers. Doctors without degrees, you learn everything that a nurse does. A lot of people would like to know that. We had that training in the army for in a couple of days, everything you need to know for combat medicine. You know, you only needed 4 medications, max: morphine, antibiotics, cortisone, and what was the other one? I forgot. Oh, yeah, super glue. Yeah. So that's all you need, you know, no medical records. So that's how it happens with.
Right.
So wouldn't it be great if people would actually have the same knowledge as a nurse? Wouldn't they be better speaking partners for their doctors? You know, like, wouldn't they understand things better? Because now, how many of us have not been in a hospital room where some of our family is very sick, and you stand there and you studied, but you can't help because, you didn't go through med school. So I believe there will be a market for what I call citizen doctors, you know, to help people, but also expert patients. A patient that has gone through something traumatic and came out and feels great. You know, who would you want to talk to? An expert doctor or an expert patient? I'll take the patient first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Because,
especially if you know your own body, right? If you're going to a doctor and you have that data, you know, you're talking about the wearables, you're getting a lot more data around your health constantly. And like you see Apple, right? They launch something new every year where there's a new feature, you know, next year, who knows if they can do like blood pressure with their phone, right? And so all that data you're giving to the brands, but you're also giving that data to the individual, right? I think that's powerful as well for someone to know when they do have a beer, you know, what happens to their pulse? You know, does that start to speed up when they work out and they start to see week on week that their, you know, pulse is lower and lower? Like they can start to understand their own, you know, micro impacts based off how they're living each day, which is powerful, not only for the brand, but then also, of course, for us as individuals to live longer, right? So that's definitely fascinating.
We went through number one, you know, the smartphone and the wearables. That's the disruption of medical, the disruption of medical information. You know, number two, these clinical trials, the disruption of medical research, because people will also set up their own clinical trials. You know, like they can do it like crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
Number three, and that's what we have a suite for Doc.Ai, you know, like that we are getting that ready so that people can just do it themselves. Number three is then basically consumer med school. But if they have all that, what will be the next phase? Just suppose you know what a nurse does, you know how to explain things, you know, you have your tools. They will want a hospital room at home.
I would love that. That's my dream.
Yeah, because, you know, do you know that most people go to a hospital and they get like saline, you know, like an AV? I could do that at home. Intramuscular injection.
People are beginning to do that, you know, like when people will go out drinking and stuff, they like, I see this as like a brand, like people are actually starting to put those like saline IVs in you just to flush out the toxins. So it's becoming more and more common.
In Vegas. It comes with, you know, you can even order it with the room service.
Exactly. Yeah. So
it does come back in the afternoon, you know.
No, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, what's interesting though, is that like, we're starting to realize that getting all this data is really the answer. And then also, first of all, understanding it, but more specifically about the data is that it's not just, you know, from us as patients, it's also from our environments, of course. So would love to talk a little bit about XY.AI, your current brainchild. Love the concept. Our environment obviously impacts our health a ton. And so just putting our zip code in could tell us like, hey, we're more susceptible to this kind of disease or this kind of health problem because we live in this climate or with these conditions, or maybe there's enough people around us with clusters. So, I mean, maybe that could be something great for, you know, like Flint, Michigan. I'm sure that you could have seen that, you know, through people's populations and their health around that area or whatever it may be. So do you think that's going to play a big role because of, you know, more data from wearables, more genomic testing, and just you can get those clusters and better identify the hot spots of issues?
Yeah, it's XY is a very small company, you know, it's a Harvard spinoff. What we have done there, and it was a lot of work actually, is getting all these satellites up, you know, like, but we didn't put them up, you know, they were there already. I don't want to own any hardware, I just want to have software functions. And we realize that it is not about nature and nurture, but it's more about neighborhoods, the third end, where you live, really impacts, like your lifespan, your health, and so many other things. And but also not only for your environment and the expo zone. For instance, we live in California here. We have to take, we have I have air purifiers. I have outside, there's sprinklers in addition to water for when we burn down. So we have the smoke detectors outside in the garden, like can we go out or no? You see, people get used to it, California is a bit space,
It's very different for me down here. We have like hurricane shutters on our doors, and I'm sure, that's probably a huge cause of either loss or health damages that can result in even more health issues. If your house gets destroyed, you might not eat very healthy food. You could get raised on that for a few years. I know like a lot of homes, including myself, like, it took a couple years, and then you get the black mold and all these different things. So it's definitely important to consider those different geographic issues to our health in our neighborhoods.
Yeah. But then I come to my last point of the emancipation of the patient. Not a lot of people actually believe that point yet. And it is so, easy to imagine. If people have the tools, if they know that they are in a buyer's market, if they understand the market, and if they have a hospital room at home, what will be the next phase? The next phase is they will make their own medication. Because, there are millions and millions of diabetics, and they pay pharma. These generic recipes are FDA cleared, ready to take. You make your own medication, and every time you take a pill, you have a part of that money goes to you. It's a circle. Data, and you're probably better at fine-tuning the therapeutic windows and the pill than pharma has. Because so I think that's the made by patients will be a brand. I'd rather have pills made by patients. I think who have the same thing as I if I can. And you can now look it all up online. So it's not actually. You just have to find a manufacturer and just give them the recipe, the package. We don't care. Make it a blue bottle so that everyone sees. What it's made by patients. I think that by 2030. We will see a disruption of pharma, by vertical diseases, and especially the commodities.
That definitely makes sense. And I'm just thinking of it like every single individual is very different. The way my body would react to an Advil could be different than the way your body interacts to an Advil. I guess it does seem like quite a radical idea for people that may be listening to you for the first time, thinking about their family members who know nothing about medicine, creating their own, and it could get there, though, I think, if you start to personalize it down. And I guess from a scalability standpoint, is that feasible, though? Is that like ultimately?
No, because you see, people who take Lipitor, they all take the same Lipitor. People who take aspirin, they take the same aspirin. Amoxicillin, antibiotic, they're the same.
They're so standard. Honestly, and there's so many machines now that are coming out that are meant to like either map your proteome or your genome and this and that. And then eventually there'll be those like 3D printed pill machines that just you have all the ingredients in, and it's like, oh, I need a little bit of this and like change it just this little way for my own specific, genomic marker indicator or whatever. And then you're good to go. I could see that happening. I think getting people on board of even personalized, like decentralized health is difficult. But once we start getting them on the roll, I think they're going to look for any and every way to cut those exorbitant costs from pills that you could buy in Mexico or Europe for pennies on the dollar.
And also, because basically there are so many layers in healthcare, and it's these layers of bureaucracies that make the pills actually expensive. Cut these layers. Of course, everything I say, medical research, the CROs, the hospitals, pharma, they're entrenched. they won't give up without a fight. But
like electric vehicles, exactly, just exactly like this.
Like the open source movement, we just thought, hey, there's more of us than of them.
I love that.
That's amazing. So how do you combine? I know you have I was looking over your tweets, and you clearly have a love for blockchain, for Bitcoin, Ethereum. And I think there is this perfect storm. These two worlds definitely collide, right? In terms of healthcare, especially if you think about smart contracts, HIPAA compliance. That's always been the biggest conversation of, it does seem crazy in theory. If I go from one hospital to another hospital, and I'm not awake to tell them what I'm allergic to or whatnot, like that information in a perfect world would be shared, right? But because of HIPAA compliance and people's privacy, there's that big gap that exists still today, right? I mean, maybe Sharecare, how are they able to like solve it? Or how do you just overall, from your perspective, like how is blockchain going to play a role here in the future of medicine and healthcare?
I think not immediate, I think. There's still a lot of things to be done with blockchain that have precedents like finance, and because there is also an emancipation, because now that's what I teach, always taught my students. The government will let you go in casinos. They will let you buy lottery tickets, but you cannot buy a share of a hedge fund. So you can be poorer, but you cannot be richer. So forget that nonsense about protecting the innocent.
Yeah,
so,
you are right.
The only way to do that is, you have to, at Stanford now next year will be the first year that we actually do the full course, where we say this is for doctors who want to stay at Stanford. They want to stay academics, but they want to set up a spin-off that actually takes their care practice and it makes it virtual. How do you do that? And it's a niche, but you see, if you go through med school, like in most education, they do not learn, even Catholic education, they did not learn how to use money. It's like something diabolical, a stigma.
Yep.
We came out, we didn't even know what a share was, like if you go you are sitting there talking about the reverse Laplace transformation, but you don't know how a check works.
Right, exactly. You're learning calculus, but you don't know how to manage it in your own budget.
Also, and they're teaching you to buy a house and get a loan, and then of course take a loan out on your school, and then there's no way you're going to pay for it with the interest rates. So it's a purposeful thing to not teach the ease of understanding savings and financing your life.
And that's why I'm also an advocate of because I like structured finance. I was in investment banking. Structured finance is great. It can be dangerous, but just like anything else, you can do it for good or for evil. Casinos and lotteries are also dangerous. So decentralized finance put nuclear financial tools in the hand of
anyone. Yeah.
These kids going on margin from day one. They put their money in. All of a sudden they have double, and they don't realize that you're being charged for that.
Yeah. Now I talked to
myself included when I first started.
Now lend money to hedge funds, you can get like 20%. And what do these hedge funds do with it on decentralized finance? They buy Bitcoin.
And it all goes on their, and if you're a normal company too, it goes on your balance sheet, and and like Tesla, for instance, now they're letting you pay for your car in Bitcoin, which of course they'll just hold. And the more, it's just supply and demand thing. It's how much you believe and what you're willing to pay for anything.
Yeah, well, nobody will sell. Everyone is holding Bitcoin. Like there's two kind of people. People who hold Bitcoin and people who hold Bitcoin but forgot their password. you know.
It's true. I moved some of my Bitcoin into Ethereum. So I know they operate obviously very differently, but are you team Bitcoin or team Ethereum? Or are you see that there's obviously two different purposes?
Crypto, but I'm of course a Bitcoin maximalist. So I own quite a big, big part of my investments are in Bitcoin, and I keep buying every day.
I love it.
Years, I buy $200 a day. Whatever.
Recurring.
Mm-hmm.
And then every time when I have a windfall, I take 25% of that, put it all in Bitcoin again. People always ask me why I'm such an advocate of Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin is the #1 biggest company in the world.
Yeah.
It has more market cap than Apple, and it has no CEO. It has no headquarters, and everyone has sabotaged us for 20 years.
It's been such a long time. I mean, I think Bitcoin is just that now that we've got Square, PayPal, all these guys taking it seriously. I mean, it's game over, right? It's just how fast does it get there, right? And like you see, it's so funny. And I always make fun of those big institutions who obviously their incentive is the same as the lobbyists for pharma and the lobbyists for EVs and the oil industry is keep people using what they're using. So banks don't want it. And then you have to flip and say, oh, now Goldman Sachs has a Bitcoin. They're launching Bitcoin trusts and ETFs. And that's just the way the industry is gonna roll. But the more adoption for it, the more uses we can find. And of course, we're still trying to figure out the first swing of all the innings here for medtech in general and privatizing and democratizing it. But I could definitely see it being eventually, hopefully, if we have the right future and we don't go into another medical dark age, we've got these Ethereum smart contracts that just, send over your medical records all the time. Everything's, easily when you go to the hospital, we don't have those issues like Avi was saying, where you may not know, like I'm allergic to amoxicillin. And if I got it, I'd probably die. So those are important things to know, I guess. And I have a card in my wallet just for that reason.
Yeah. You see it is, of course, like I used to say that also to all my clients, please don't do what I do. Because I am comfortable in losing what I invest in high risk, and people sometimes say, me too, but it's not true.
Right. Exactly. Trust. Yeah, we know that too. I mean, that's just the way it goes.
Because they say, it's okay, I'll sell my house, but they forget that probably they break up the family.
And where are you going to live? Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
and so it's everything can go to zero. Even our world.
The world only ends once, though.
Yeah, if tomorrow North Korea attacks us, the markets will be dampened. You never know. So this is part of investing. Otherwise, it will be easy. You just put in money and you are certain of the return. In Silicon Valley, I tell young entrepreneurs or young engineers, if you will get options and shares from companies. And you should do that, but in the end, just pay off your mortgage, because in the end, the appreciation, it will always be there. It's so go back to a little. Don't throw the whole world completely away. Just renew it.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. And Walter, just to kind of bring this back, whether it be crypto and looking at the blockchain side of things, obviously with the healthcare as well, and kind of wrapping this all together in one package, then where do you see Sharecare in terms of where you see Sharecare bringing value to society? Well,
it's basically, as I'm not going to go into detail, but I'll tell you two physics formulas it's just natural science. P equals mv. Momentum is mass times velocity. We are velocity, they were mass. Together we are momentum. And then there is a second Newton, like force. The delta of force is the delta of mass times velocity. This is what we can do. And so I've already learned a lot from Jeff. Actually, I know Jeff for, it's very strange because I looked up Sharecare and my name. And then I found out that in 2011, I have like 12 interviews. They interviewed me, but I forgot about it. It was at the conference.
That's amazing.
It all came true, or is coming true.
Well, it's a simulation.
Exactly.
So I think it's I told my team wear shades because the future is bright.
I love that. I mean, if it's all about data, right? That's how you get that momentum. That's how you get the force going. The more data we have, the more insights we have, and then the more data we have, and it just spirals like this exponential graph. So hopefully all we have to do is go to the bathroom and we'll know everything about ourselves.
Yeah, because now every time we go to the bathroom, we waste a lot of data.
Yeah.
It's true.
I love it.
It was really fun talking to you guys.
Pounding on the table for my team. Every night I flex, I'm making big moves.